Welcome back to the She Cultivates podcast. My name is Elizabeth Savillon, and thank you for joining me on another episode. Here we talk all about personal growth and cultivating your best self and community and giving you practical tools to apply into your life. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and leave a review. All of that helps us to grow and also to know what you are loving, what you would love to hear more about, and what resonates with you, because that is helpful as this whole rebrand that we've done to bring on guests and to grow the show. And so if you love what you're hearing, make sure to share this with a friend, share it on Instagram, and leave a review. I'm here at High Hello Labs in downtown Orlando in this beautiful studio space, and just grateful for another month to celebrate Women's Month. I know I haven't shared that before in like our previous first episode that came out in March, but happy International Women's Day and happy Women's Month. I know that is something here that we are all about the girls and we're all about the women. And if you want to join a women community, She Cultivates is an Orlando community that is growing, that is all about cultivating your best self and community when it comes to friendships, personal growth, and a place where you can just meet like-minded women. This month in March, we are doing meetups where they're very interest-based, local, and then in April, we have a wellness event. And if you buy a ticket from that you listen to this podcast, I will add an additional code in the show notes. So make sure to go on there and you can use the code so that you can be a part of our April event. We also have our podcast 5-year celebration that's coming out this summer in June. And so I'm just putting it out there, a feeler, if you are local or if you are maybe somewhere else here in Florida and would like to come. We are doing a podcast 5-year party this summer. And so we will be putting out podcast tickets soon. And also, if you are an exclusive listener to this podcast, you will have a special code and be able to know first. And so make sure to be in the know of all things that we do with She Cultivates as well as Elizabeth Sabby. And so on this week's episode, I actually wanted to get into this past week. I was at a Women's Connection Summit powered by Friend Forward and Danielle Byer-Jackson, which she has been on this podcast before. She is a friendship coach and a science of female friendship. And so she just educates us on connection, on how to navigate conflicts within female friendships, how to cultivate deeper friendships and meaningful connections. And so it was an amazing event. I was honored to be a part and help in more the assisting role of this event when it comes to like the event experience and working hand in hand with her. But also I did a breakout session, which I was really, really happy to do. And it was for my single girlies. And I hadn't talked about this topic before on this podcast, so I wanted to share it here because this breakout session that I did was about how to cultivate meaningful friendships in your single girl era. So for those of you guys that are single, what that looks like. And so I was in a room with women that were in their single season, and they were we were able to talk about like the realities, the struggles, the expectations, maybe some hardships that you go through in that, and how to still have important friendships throughout that season. Because if I'm honest, I have cultivated more deeper, meaningful friendships being single than I have being partnered. When I was in a relationship, I feel like I didn't put that emphasis or that like, I don't know, I just didn't put that value like how I should have into friendships. I would be with someone that would leave all my friends and be like, see ya, I'm over here. I'm enjoying, my dates and I'm always booked and busy. But then when I got out of that relationship, I realized that like my community was not the same, And I really have leaned into my community in the past few years of making intentional, like, I love having times with my girls. I love having times where I can connect and just get away. I've done girls trips and being intentional and very putting them at the same value of the investment that you put into intimate partners. It is very different, like platonic relationships, but platonic relationships are shown to provide you with healthy, like a healthy lifestyle, a healthy world when you're connected, when you feel like you're supported, when you feel like you're a part of a community. That has so much to do with what we have talked about this month and in previous episodes with like your overall health, with your mental health, with your physical health. And through this conference, we were talking about how, there's a loneliness epidemic, and, everyone shares about that. Like, there's so many people that are not connected. And so with the rise actually of single women in the US, they're saying, I think it was like in 42% of women will be single and without kids by 2030. And there's a rise of women in the United States that are deciding not to be partnered and not to have kids. So what do you do when there's an incline of that, but you still want to have connection? And, we all are in need of connection. And so I was able to share like within my session of like some challenges that I have had, like I am super honored, first of all, to have the friends that I do, and they are super supportive of me. Like I have never felt left out of anything with them. They like, but it's because I communicate with them of certain things that I have felt or issues that can come up. And I also have different friends for different things, meaning I have single friends, I have in relationship friends, I have acquaintances, I have married friends. And so I'm able to kind of like have a group of different women that we can support and be there for each other in different ways, versus when you're only around people that are in a relationship or married. Of course, sometimes that can feel like, you are left out, and that's completely valid. When they do group dates and you're not invited, or when they only talk about relationships and that's like the center of all your interactions, you kind of start feeling like, okay, like, I might not be in a relationship, but like, I am working on my career, or I just started my business, or I just bought this house, or I just went on this solo trip, and nobody puts that same interest, and so that can be real. And I want to validate that experience, because that is something that is as you get older, and if your community around you is just that, then you can feel that way. So it's important to find people that support your growth, that support and celebrate you. And if there are some times that it's not personal, like it's not sometimes as direct as sometimes we think it is, like you don't know what someone else is going through, then maybe they forgot to send that text, right? So we always want to assume the best and be like, maybe something happened, or maybe they didn't mean to. But you can also communicate and be like, hey, like I kind of, was hoping that you would be there for me for this, because this is really, really important. And it hurt me that you weren't, and so being able to have those conversations, I feel like helps you deepen your relationships, even though you might not be in a relationship, so with your friends, to have those open communication, because that also comes down to expectations that you have in friendship. And so this conversation is for someone that is single and they're like navigating those feelings, but also if you're in a relationship and maybe how to check in on your single friends. Because yes, even though being single, right? Like when you're on either side, it's like, I feel like people that are single are like, I can't wait to be in a relationship. And then people that are in a relationship are like, to be single. Like you have all this time, you get to travel, like you get to do whatever. So it's like how to be content in your season and how to empathize with people and be there and be able to offer that support when needed. So as a single person, I have felt that, it's so important to have your friends that pay attention to those things that are happening in your life and that are following up with that, that it might not be that I'm getting engaged or dating. I remember when I didn't date for 2 years, I had nothing juicy. Like I had no tea to share at all about relationships, and there was times where it's like, okay, like, yeah, I'm not in a relationship, no drama with my ex, like no, like, and it just kind of feels like there's other stuff that I am doing though, like ask me about my goals, ask me about, and there were friends that did, and we got to grow closer, but then the friends that only focused on that part of my life, I felt a disconnect. So people, I even made like a whole episode, I think it was last year, about decentering men during healing. So when you're not focusing so much on the relationship aspect of your life, it's like there's so many other things. So maybe even bringing that up to your friends and being like, hey, like I know that, like, when we get together, like we talk about is, relationships and all of that. But honestly, like that's not where I'm at right now. And like I have other things going on too. And I would love if maybe we can also share about those things, and I understand that's very important to you, but this is also very important to me. And having that conversation can change your friendships. It can change those dynamics. But if you never say something, then it's like you'll never know. So you always want to give people that chance to, to work through certain things versus assume that they will know, and sometimes it's just when you do hit the successes as a single person, you also can have those feelings that, you bought the house or you got the job or you're doing really good in your career and you're like, man, this would have been nice to do with a partner. Like, wow, like this trip would have been so much better, And I was open during my session that I'm turning 30 this year. And something I always thought that by 30, like I would go to Paris with like the person that I love, like Europe. And it looks different this year, right? And so it's like how to navigate those feelings of like, it's going to be different, but I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to have fun. I'm still going to go on that trip. And being able to have those, like both can exist, where you feel that like sense of grief or sadness that it's not your reality, but also you're like, I'm enjoying where I'm at. But I know sometimes people can assume that because you're single and you're thriving or you're doing so good, it's like that you don't have those days. It's like, no, we do. The holidays are hard. Sometimes the weekends are hard, but it's having those people that can give you space to have those feelings, even, when someone else gets married or someone else gets engaged from your group and you start being like the last one to be in that process, you can have those real emotions that you feel like, man, will that ever happen for me? And so it was great to have this session with women that were very open and honest of certain challenges that they have and certain feelings that sometimes you feel like you can't say, A big one that I did want to touch on was about, well, I've been in so many been bridesmaids, maid of honors. Will people do that for me in my season? So like, let's say I get married at 35 or 40, like, will I be able to have that same experience from the people that are 20 and get married or 25, because like, honestly, I feel like during that time, you're like, yeah, I'll be in everything. And then in your 30s, like you're building, it's different. And so some people have more responsibility. And so how would that look? And so being able to talk to your friends of those expectations or be able to share that it might look different for you. But again, like I think that there are women that can still be supportive regardless of your relationship status, but there's also some important conversations that you can have with those people to make sure that you do feel supported and it's reciprocated, that it's not only I know that it can be vulnerable, but it's like saying like, hey, like I miss hanging out, just you and me. I miss like, I know we're in different seasons, but like I would love to plan something like for us to just connect, and it is vulnerable, but that can bring that relationship closer. And there are some friendships that through different seasons that you guys are in, it changes your relationship and it's hard to move forward, but having that communication, expectations, and being clear of that with your friends. And then now for the people that are in a relationship, I think knowing that we do want to be involved in stuff that you do, even if it's only like you and your family or you and your partner, like being able to be invited to things is so great, to be like, hey, like we're gonna do this, like if you want to come. Like I mean, I feel like I'm the third wheel, or I guess fifth wheel, to my sisters. They're both married, and I love when it's just like all of us, together. And we are very close, so that's another part to it. But it's like I never feel like, oh, I'm never like, oh, there's like five of us. It's like it's just all of us, So when they invite me to something, or like we're like, oh, everybody, together. And it's nice to be like even for special days that maybe you know that your single friend is going through, maybe like they went through a breakup, that it's a specific holiday's hard for them, checking in on them, being like, hey, are you good? Like, or on a celebration, when maybe you have that support of a family or you have support of your partner, being able to tell them, hey, like, I know, if you need me to go to that appointment with you, like, let me know. Or like, hey, if you need me to go to do something that day. So it's like being also intentional to be involved in their lives, in the same way that sometimes us are maybe like you assume like, oh, they have so much time, like it's like we still have our own things, and so I think just sharing that both and like that perspective of both people with a relationship or not, it's like not comparing your life to say, oh, I have more responsibility or I have more things than you. It's like, no, we both have our both lives that we're both building and doing things, and I can make time, and if that's important to me, I will make time, or I will communicate like, hey, this is a crazy season, but I love you, and like I want to be there for you, and I want you to know that I want to do better in this. Maybe I it's been a crazy past few months, but like I'm still your person. If you ever need anything, like that still makes you feel supported, in a friendship. So just being able to have that, and again, that does come with time, the vulnerability of that, but it can really better your friendships, whether you are single or in a relationship. And lastly, something that I wrapped up with the session was that I have built beautiful things from my single season, and I have enjoyed it. I have really genuinely enjoyed it. Everything that, from the podcast to the acting classes to the salsa classes to the in-person community, like that all came out of me having this season and this time that you can build a thriving life, no matter your relationship status. And I know that a lot of us wait to live for that, because in society that is a huge part of what is seen as like, okay, success. But in this generation that we live in, it's going to look different. In the society that we live in, it's going to look different. And so how to be content where you're at, how to be open to knowing that, you're living your life on purpose, you have purpose, and it's so much more beyond that, and you can still have the desire for that. I still do. And I always share that because I never want anyone to assume that it's like, oh, like she never wants to be. No, it's like I still have those desires, but I will never let that dictate the life or the fulfillment of my life, and when I let go of that, it just really changed my life, because the way that I interacted with people, like the way that I saw people, like I'm really big on like, I don't have the scarcity mindset in dating and marriage. Like I believe that I will have a healthy relationship. I believe that it's out there for me. I believe all of that. So I'm also, even though I do believe that, it's going to come when it comes and in its time, I'm doing my part, for it. And I'm also surrounding myself around good, healthy people that keep me hopeful for that, and that make me feel a part of things, like we have a bachelorette party for one of my close friends that's coming up, and most of them are relationship, married, and we're all going. And it was kind of like one of those things like, we're glad we still get to do this, like I feel very supported and loved by my friends. And so I hope that you can find a community that feels like that, and so if you ever need someone to talk to, if you're single and you're navigating through that, or even if you're in a relationship and you want to be more supportive to your single friends, or even maybe certain areas that maybe you feel unheard or unseen, to be able to communicate that to them. But I'm rooting for you and your friendships in your single season. And I believe that you can cultivate a life and friendships and a community that you love. And so I hope that this was helpful. It was really impactful being able to talk to the women over the weekend and just being able to share my heart with people that are in the same season, being in their late 20s, 30s, 40s even, and having to navigate that in the society. I tell my close friends that I love so much, just saying that, is that if you have not dated since 2020, you do not understand. You don't get it. It's not the same. If you haven't dated since 2024, You do not get it. So it's like, it's nice sometimes to feel like, I see it. I know. We have the stories from the apps and we get it. So just know we're all on our journey, for figuring a lot of stuff out. And so have grace and compassion with those people and check in on your people, check in on your friends, check in. And this month, maybe as a challenge, check in on that friend that you haven't in a while. That maybe you're like, life has been so busy, send that text, hey, been thinking about you. Would love to connect, because connection is so powerful in this day and age. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share with a friend, share it on social media, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you guys next week.